Peace, everybody. Welcome. I just recently watched the new Netflix series Monsters, the Ed Gein Story. And if you know me, I've always been obsessed with like serial killers, the psychology behind it. So this isn't anything new for me. But when I was watching this, there was a part of me like, I wonder what his card is, because that's my other thing, are the cards, and really trying to make things make sense through the cards. So I looked up his birthday, and I had not finished the series yet when I looked up his birthday, and he is born August 27th, which makes him born a Queen of Hearts Virgo. So that means he's the Queen of Hearts ruled by the 10 of Clubs. And then I finished the series, and then I wanted to know what was his mother's card. And she was actually born as a 7 of Clubs, the June 7 of Clubs. So that makes her a Cancer, and then she is ruled by that 9 of Hearts. So in true fashion, I want to break this down through the cards. Now, I did an Instagram video a couple of days ago, and it got a lot of views, and I was really looking at it from the actual man, Ed Gein, and the actor that played him. The actor's card is the Jack of Diamonds, and Ed Gein's card was the Queen of Hearts, and how those two cards even intertwine in their life spread, and really how it made sense. And the gentleman that played Ed Gein did an amazing job in just taking on that characteristics. And now that I know that Ed Gein was a Queen of Hearts, it all makes sense. The Queen of Hearts is known as the mother card. And if you've seen the show, how many times does Ed Gein in the show say the word mother, mother, mother? Like, it's obsessive even. Hello, Queen of Hearts is the mother card. So here they are, right? The Queen of Hearts and the 7 of Clubs, the cards behind the monster, and the cards do tell their story. And I'm here to really dive into it and give you some more insight into how I actually, after seeing this and now knowing the cards, really do believe that it was his mother that created the monster that he became. And I'll explain why. Okay, so now we have the plate here as well, right? Now we're going to look at it from the life spread and the pure spread, because the Queen of Hearts, when you look at her from the life spread, she sits down here, Neptune, Neptune. This is the Neptune row, Neptune. So very sometimes fantasy, delusional relationships, but the biggest thing, the Queen of Hearts is literally the card of the mother of love, all the five senses, a little bit more sensitive, led by the heart, right? She is to be a caregiver in some kind of way, but remember, queens being that feminine, receptive energy need just as much love as they want to give. They also need that love as well. Now, what's interesting, because Ed Gein is the Virgo Queen of Hearts, that would make him ruled by his Mercury card, which is the 10 of Clubs. Now, to me, this made so much sense as to the insomnia, being up all hours of the night, and then going out into the graveyard and doing the things that he did. If you have not seen this, spoiler alert, I'm probably gonna give a lot of insight to the show, so go watch it and then come back and watch this or watch it and know what's already happening, right? So what is the 10 of Clubs? It's like a mind on steroids, right? Naturally, it's the coach, it's the teacher, it's like a big brain, but the low side of that could be like enhanced thoughts, voices, schizophrenia, which they actually diagnosed Ed Gein with towards like the latter part of his years, when he was in the mental institute. And he even describes about hearing voices, and after the mother passed, he was still communicating with her as if she was actually there in the house. So that really gives more context as to why his mind was literally essentially kind of playing tricks on him, because deep down, all he wanted was the love of his mother. He didn't want to disappoint her. He wanted to make her happy. And it was like he was trying to go above and beyond to get her approval, which you can definitely kind of see with this 10 of Clubs. And the 10 of Clubs, like all tens, there is this need for attention, to be seen. And I think a lot of the things that he was doing was to be seen by his mother, even after death, when she passed. Like his need for that feminine love and caress, and just that emotional nature we get from mother, right? That he did not get from his mother. So he what he did with like the bodies and the people that he killed, he was basically trying to recreate his mother through the parts of other people without getting too graphic of it, right? So now the mother birthday is the June seven of clubs, which this is where her card right here, right? Now from the life spread perspective, and also the nine of hearts, because if she's the Cancer, seven of clubs, she's ruled by the moon card that's pushing her, which is the nine of hearts. So the seven of clubs is the card of spiritual knowledge, right? Just as a basic interpretation. But what are sevens? Cards of faith or fear. Some can be very religious, very strict in their upbringing of those religious institutions and beliefs. Sometimes you'll find that they've had none at all, and they have to find themselves as they grow up and create a lot of spiritual discipline and practices for themselves. Because what do we know about the sevens is their faith or fear, and there's not room for both. And because they can have a lot of ideologies about religion, practices, etc., they can kind of go to the extreme to one side or the other. And since it's a club, it's the words, the thoughts, the beliefs, the ideas, communications, etc. So when she was raising her sons, she very much projected a lot of her religious beliefs onto them, her own fears, her own ideologies of how people should be, and again, go watch the series if you're interested, because she's very intense though, and who played her did amazing. Very intense in her beliefs. She would tell her sons that women are, no good, they're sin. So can you imagine telling a adolescent boy who is kind of coming into himself in puberty and is excited, to probably have relationships? She damned them. She made them, you won't be worthy, you'll go to hell, blah blah blah, with all of that religious uh, beliefs that she had. She was then projecting onto her children and made them probably feel, or think that it's bad, all these feelings that I'm having, all these things that I'd like to do with a partner, like it was sin to the mother. And she very much raised them under that belief, and that they were dirty. And if they touched themselves, if they experienced pleasure, if they wanted to talk to a woman, she instantly deemed the woman, bad and sinful, etc. And she used much more vulgar words that I won't use because I don't know if that's allowed. But anyways, let's look at it from the pure spread now, because I found this to be very interesting. When you look at the Queen of Hearts, and this is the pure spread, and if you can see that everything is in order, because this is the soul. This is where everything is in perfect order before we come to life spread, where it's like a dice throw and they land where they land. I jokingly say it's like ghetto earth, and we're here to work out the karma from the soul path. But anyways, that's a whole nother YouTube. We look at the Queen of Hearts, and she sits Venus, Saturn. So again, relationship, and the Queen of Hearts naturally is a more sensitive energy of love, of, intimacy, of feel. All the five senses are heightened, and she's more sensitive. And if you do watch the show, the gentleman, even the actor that played him, he was very sensitive, very soft spoken, and so that more feminine energy. Interesting. Now, remember what I said his mother's card was? Well, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. His mother was his Pluto card in the pure spread. So there is definitely probably like a past life that they've had to do this before and work out any kind of karmas. But Pluto connections in the cards can be intense, can be abusive, can be hostile, can bring power struggles. If you know anything about the planet Pluto, it represents eighth house. And she probably did view sex and intimacy and fornication as the devil, as, sin, as you're going to hell, or however she viewed it. She projected that and created a lot of fear in her son for having these feelings, having these emotions, being sensitive, wanting to experience a lot of love. She very much made that a challenge for him. And again, please know this video is to not excuse what he did, what she did. I'm just trying to paint it from the view of these cards and why it did kind of play out the way it did, just even based on this Plutonian connection that they have as a son and a mother. Now, what I've learned has, again, our very first 7 years of life, our formative years, really do create the thought patterns, our relationships, how we view relationships, how we may show up in relationships, our wealth consciousness or poverty consciousness, our belief systems are very much instilled into us from the ages of 0 to 7, when our subconscious mind and then our conscious mind is being formed. All these patterns and all these thoughts and all these beliefs are what we will live by and repeat as we get older, right? We just are programmed. And if the 7 of clubs is not a high side 7 of clubs, the opposite side of that can be very negative thoughts, dark thoughts, lack, fear. That's the low side of the 7 of clubs, right? So, and again, with this Jack of Spades even being here, the different personalities, even like morphing. We know the Jack of Spades is like a very powerful card of an initiate, but on the low side, it can be deceitful, a trickster, wearing many different masks. You never know what you were going to get type of energy. So anyways, with this being his Pluto card in the spirit spread, you can definitely see a lot of the Plutonian energy that she probably brought out and projected onto him that caused him to have a lot of the fears, etc. Even so, when you look at the 9 of Hearts, which is her planetary ruling card, the Mars card, look, Mercury, Venus, Mars was her son, the Queen of Hearts. So he had Mars and Pluto from his mother. And if you know anything about those planets and the energy that they can bring, those two together are some of the more hostile, intense, driven, anger, abusive type of energies on the low side. I'm not saying that's all. They have a lot of power. Mars can definitely bring out a warrior. You can accomplish a lot. It's very driven energy. And Pluto can bring a lot of transformation, but it usually comes through a death and a rebirth, taking back your power, etc. So the fact that, the mother had, the son as, or he experienced his mother as probably very Mars and Pluto and not a lot of love. And if you're a heart card, I'm a heart card. And if you don't get that love that you just so deeply desire and have inside of you, you can spend your whole life looking for it. And you can tell in the show that he was looking for it through his mother, who, for whatever reason, and maybe how she was raised was probably then portrayed in how she raised her sons. And if she didn't have a lot of love, now she's perpetuating that cycle and didn't break the cycle and created a monster through the way she raised him and kind of almost, didn't allow him to experience a lot of love, a lot of comfort, a lot of nurturing energy that mother typically gives, right? So that's it from the pure spread. And then we know with the 10 of clubs, the planetary ruling card that he has, it's the 7 of clubs, Mercury, Venus, Mars. So even through the planetary ruling card spread, there's that Mars again, so double Mars from the mother's perspective, right? And then Pluto from his perspective from the mother. And even so, I believe the queen in the pure spread, this is actually, yeah, the cosmic moon to the Queen of Hearts on the pure spread. So his own planetary energy was also a moon energy from the pure spread or the spirit spread, however you want to call it. So even so, which the cosmic moon represents what? The mother. And it being a 10 of clubs, it makes sense that he, had the hallucinations, would hear her even after her passing, would literally have full on conversations, and even past his mother when he was in the hospital, he was trying to communicate with other people, and he created these false narratives and stories that never actually happened, but he thought he was actually talking to people through those handheld radios that they had back in like the 50s. And though there was nobody there, nobody was talking to him, but in his mind he was. And that really you can see through the 10 of clubs lens. So let me go back to the life spread. And let's really look at his spread. As a Queen of Hearts, right? Like I said, they sit Neptune. So there can be the rose colored glasses, the very overindulging, the addictions, the fantasies, all of that plays in the Queen of Hearts. They're very pleasurable. They're very desirable. Hence why in the town, people liked Ed Gein because he was probably very nice, very soft spoken, probably wanted to be of service and help in some kind of way because that's just the natural energy of the queens. Now, his Mercury card, like I said before, is this 10 of clubs. So his mind probably never shut off because that is sometimes the downfall of the 10 of clubs. It's the card of insomnia, right? It also is the card of being very smart and very intelligent and wanting a lot of attention and even trying to gain a lot of attention through actions, through knowledge, through information. So you can tell he just wanted the attention of his mother. And then their Venus card is the Eight of Diamonds. So again, wanting that's a very strong card of power, a lot of emotional power that can come through the Eight of Diamonds as Venus, maybe liking fine things, maybe using financial ways of getting relationships can sometimes, or, the Queen of Hearts, like, what are you spending on me rather than what are you, how are you loving me, right? That could definitely come through with that Venus energy. But what I find very interesting is the Queen of Hearts Mars card is this very powerful King of Spades. On the high side, this is mastery, wisdom, intelligence, maturity, confidence. But on the low side, the King of Spades can actually be the card of murder, death, homicide, because it's a fixed card and it's the most powerful card. And when it's in Mars for the Queen of Hearts for life, because it never moves, they on the low side can be or experience abuse, whether they're the ones receiving it or giving it. They can be kind of tyrants, be that this is like the off with your head type of energy. And that's kind of crazy because if you've watched the series, that's anyways, and kind of what he did, right? So with the King of Spades being their Mars card, if they don't have the emotional maturity, right, and the distinction between some of these feelings, and then add in the way he was raised and how he was spoken to, he internalized a lot of that and acted out through a lot of that energy that the King of Spades definitely brought. Now, their Jupiter card is the Three of Hearts. And if you noticed in the series, he really was just a little boy stuck in a grown person's body. He probably never really matured because he was so stuck in those formative years of and looking for love. What do the threes do on the low side? Look outside of themselves, right? And it's his Jupiter card. So he was just a big kid that really wanted love. And again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just showing it to you through the cards. And why I can understand why he turned out the way he did based on the spread and then obviously his upbringing. And don't get me wrong, just because people have abusive parents or really bad upbringings does not make every single one of them turn into a monster or a killer or anything like that. But you cannot deny how he, really was formed into what he ended up doing. So, anyways, that Three of Hearts definitely can, have trouble expressing their love, their passions, especially if it was like shoved away or you wasn't allowed to feel anything, you weren't allowed to experiment. And that is what some of the things that the Queen of Hearts thrives in, that playfulness, that inner child, that creativeness, that overabundance of charm, of love. That's the high side of that Three of Hearts, that very passionate energy. And then have it in Jupiter. It can be, he, from what I gathered, he did some like handyman work. So he was probably good at a few different types of things. And so you can see the high side of that Three of Hearts. And then their Saturn card is the Ace of Clubs and the Two of Hearts, since that's the semi-fixed cards. And so Queen of Hearts, a lot of their karma is through relationships, learning through relationships, how to express themselves, but they can't lose themselves, right? Having an Ace of Clubs in Saturn is like turning the finger back to yourself. You have all the love you need inside of you. And though maybe in growing up, he did not get the love that he needed, and he didn't know how to, fulfill himself from the inside out and not look to others and then do the things that he did. This also can make it to where you're very curious. You ask lots of questions. Your mind is like stimulated all the time, because that's what the Ace of Clubs is. It asks questions. It's curious. It also brings new ideas, new beliefs. And you can even see in the series, like when his mother, he was trying to like, maybe even bring new ways of viewing things, and she would shut it down like completely. So their Uranus card is the Queen of Clubs, another queen, which would then be mother. And now it's in Uranus, which we know what Uranus can be: explosive, unpredictable, out of control, a surprise, all of a sudden. And it's another queen, the mother. And because his mother is the Seven of Clubs, her higher personality would be a Queen of Clubs woman. And so he has that energy in Uranus. So she really was kind of unhinged to him. And it shows in the series, she definitely had a few unhinged, elements to her. And then she projected that onto him. Can find abuse, can find even like being very distant, not being very connected, maybe even looking at her sons as an obligation rather than, or a burden rather than something you're supposed to actually nurture and love, right? Now, their Neptune card is the Ten of Spades. So Mercury and Neptune being this Ten of Spades can again bring maybe some delusions. And I think as he got older, he started to the fog started to clear, and he started to realize, I'm not well, and I think you can see that a lot of times with the Ten of Spades and Neptune. But at the same time, I think they diagnosed him with schizophrenia and they medicated him. So maybe that was a big part of him being able to kind of stop the delusion of the voices and the scenarios, etc. There's one scene where a nurse at the mental institute that he was in, the one he really liked, I guess she lost her job or lost her position, and then much more like drill sergeant nurse came in, and from the moment told Ed, like, things are changing around here. You're no longer going to be able to roam around freely. You're going to be monitored and your door's going to be locked. And like that night, he then dreamed or illusioned that the nice nurse came in and gave him keys so that he could still move around freely, but just be, sneaky about it. And then he went and like took a chainsaw to the mean nurse and thought he killed her and felt really good about it, actually. But then the next day he sees her and he literally has a whole breakdown, because in his mind, he created a scenario where he hacked her up with the chainsaw. So again, a lot of the mental and the way the mind can really, play tricks on you, definitely you can see with those tens. Now, the Pluto card in the life spread of the Queen of Hearts is the Five of Clubs. So another club, And sometimes the five of clubs can also kind of be like a mind spinning, a mind racing, a mind constantly thinking and not shutting off. So that's his natural Pluto card in the life spread. And remember, from the pure spread, that's the Pluto card is a club. The seven of clubs, his mother's birth card. So you add those two together, having those two clubs in Pluto can definitely bring delusions, schizophrenia, a mind that really doesn't know, is very distorted, especially if he was not, nurtured in a healthy way when his mind was forming as a young child. And can definitely create the perfect storm for this type of scenario that we saw through the series that they have. Now, the result card to the Queen of Hearts is the Three of Diamonds. Again, they can be very successful in multiple different areas, do very well financially, be even like you see a lot of Queen of Hearts was like star quality, because on the high side, they can definitely reach and be very attractive energies, be very lovable energies. The Three of Diamonds gives them options, gives them the ability to, expand and to create and diversify and to have success in multiple different areas. But we also know those threes to be cards of hypochondria, cards of worry, cards of stress, cards of not being able to make decisions. And so again, if he didn't have a lot of positive energy, this just keeps adding on to the already tumultuous energy and mental state that he was in. Now, their cosmic lesson is that Ace of Spades, and if you remember, the Saturn is the Ace of Clubs. So these two you want to you can read together. And again, it kind of goes back to taking accountability. Not looking to look outside of yourself, and also too, because sometimes the Queen of Hearts can be a more complacent. I don't like the word lazy, but it may take them a lot of more effort to kind of get out of the very comfortable bed that they like to sleep in and the very comfortable environment that they love. And so these aces say, like, you got to be self-motivated. You got to be self-driven. You got to be self-determined to, be that self-starter. And sometimes that can require a lot of maturity for them and a lot of more, ambition for them to go, be more pursuant of the things, but it's a lesson for them. So the more that they operate from this like self, they can always reinvent themselves. This is the card of death and rebirth. So constantly going through changes and transformations is what honestly leads them to a lot of success on the high side. But again, death, right? And getting kind of like the way he was obsessed with the graves and the cemetery and going, kind of almost resurrecting the people and then doing what he did to them. So you can see the highs and the lows. The cosmic moon, look at this, A7. I know it's not the seven of clubs, but it is still a seven. And what was his mother's birth card? The seven of clubs. And now he has a heart as the cosmic moon. That just makes them even extra sensitive. And what do we know about the seven of hearts? There is a lot of emotional swinging that can happen. They can have no boundaries. They can try to, be the savior. And you can even see like he was trying to save the mother relationship and make her proud of him. And again, the lack of boundaries, the lack of emotional support, the lack of love is really what created the monster. Because this is the card of spiritual love, unconditional love, but it's also very much about seeing yourself as the source, seeing yourself as the plug. Unfortunately, he relied too much on the mother for the love that he never got, and maybe should have found other ways to fulfill himself than through the things that he did, but he did what he did. And so having this seven of hearts as a moon, which is that very like your emotional blueprint. And again, from the very beginning in the low side and like the negative and the fear and the abandonment, the seven of hearts is a card of abandonment and not having boundaries and fears of not getting enough love and not getting enough attention on the low side. And it can be very emotionally draining on a low side, right? And he has that as the moon. And remember, his mother was a 7 as well. So there is a lot of that spiritual control and dominance that she very much inflicted on him. And then the transformation card to the Queen of Hearts is again another 7, the 7 of Diamonds. So they do have, that flippity floppity energy. We know that this should have, on a high side, would have, made him see his worth and his value and his natural ability to prosper and have abundance. But again, because he was probably more on the negative, the low, the fear side, he never could get himself out of it. He could never really dig himself out because the mind was already so distorted, he couldn't even see through a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the upbringing and the beliefs that were instilled in him. He could not create his own beliefs. Her beliefs and her ideas and her ways were so embedded in him, and she made him fear so much that that's all he could come from. And it was, he could not come from another way. So very powerful way to look at people through their cards, through their life paths, and how they connect. Now, one thing I also wanted to look at, and I need to do it really quick right now, is what is the composite of the two. So 7 of Clubs is 20 and the Queen of Hearts is 12. So that makes 32. Their composite is a 6 of Diamonds. So this was very karmic. This was something that they probably had to settle in this lifetime, that was coming from a past lifetime, and it's interestingly enough, the 6 of Diamonds transformation card for life is that 7 of Clubs and that 9 of Hearts, which was her planetary ruling card for the mother. So their composite card being the 6 of Diamonds, her energy is very much in, that spread. And then when we look at it from like the even the 9 of Hearts, the Queen of Hearts, that's their other transformation card every other year because of the semi-fixed energy that the 7 of Diamonds and the 9 of Hearts has. So they were very much intertwined. Could there have been another outcome? Maybe. We can't go back. We can only look at it from this lens and kind of dissect it and unpack it, with what we know. And again, through their birthdays, I could go to the years, the age that he was, that the mother may have passed, and really dive into it on from that lens. And maybe I'll do that. If you want me to do that, let me know in the comments, and I can, do some research and see if I can't find the age he was when his mother passed, and when he started doing the killings and the stuff that he was doing to the bodies. I could very well look into that. If you're interested in it, let me know, and that might be another whole project that I can unpack, because this is stuff that I really get excited about, because it just helps us see it from a whole nother lens. And then you can't deny, their connection, their Pluto connection, their moon connection, both from the planetary ruling card, the birth card, both of their cards, right? How he was Mars and Pluto, and, and how she was Pluto to him. And like, wow, it's a lot of intense energy. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or would like me to do, if you have any other people you'd like me to, look at through the lens of the cards, I would be happy to send them to me in the comments. As always, please check out thefulldeck.net, where you can book readings with me. You can see some webinars. I have ebooks that on these cards as well. And as always, have a great day, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.